In a quiet courtroom, a young girl stood trembling, her voice barely above a whisper as she spoke of her mother's courage. The judge smirked, dismissing her words with a cruel jab. Her mom, a Navy SEAL? Impossible. The room laughed, but her eyes burned with defiance. Then, the doors swung open. Footsteps echoed. The air grew heavy. What walked in wasn't just a person. It was proof that would shatter every doubt. Who was this girl defending? And why did her truth threaten to unravel everything the judge believed? This is a story of courage, prejudice, and a moment that changed it all. The sun dipped low over the small coastal town, casting long shadows across the cracked sidewalks. Amara, a 16-year-old with dreams bigger than her quiet life, walked home from her part-time job at the local diner. Her laughter often filled the air, her spirit unshaken by the whispers of those who judged her darker skin in a place that prided itself on uniformity. She carried her mother's old Navy SEAL pin in her pocket, a talisman of pride. Tonight, she hummed softly, unaware of the courtroom she'd soon face, where her truth would be tested. Something was brewing, a storm that would expose the town's hidden scars. Amara's heart pounded as she stepped into the courtroom, her sneakers squeaking against the polished floor. The air was thick with judgment, the kind that didn't need words to sting. She was there to defend her mother's honor, a Navy SEAL whose service had been erased by whispers of "she doesn't belong." The town's elite sat in the gallery, their eyes narrowing at Amara's proud posture, her dark skin a silent challenge to their norms. The judge, a man whose smirk carried the weight of old prejudices, leaned forward. "Your mother a SEAL?" he scoffed, his voice dripping with disbelief. "Prove it, girl." The room chuckled, a low hum that felt like a slap. Amara clutched the SEAL pin tighter in her pocket, its edges biting into her palm. She'd heard the stories, her mother's late-night missions, the medals tucked away in a drawer, the scars she never spoke of. But here, in this sterile room, those truths were reduced to a joke. She took a breath, her voice steady but small, and began to speak. "My mother served this country," she said, listing deployments, honors, and dates. The judge cut her off, his laughter sharp. "A woman like that? In the SEALs? Don't waste my time." The crowd's murmurs grew louder, their doubt a rising tide threatening to drown her. She stood taller, her eyes locking with the judge's. "Check the records," she challenged, her voice cracking but defiant. The clerk hesitated, then shuffled papers, the sound unnaturally loud in the tense silence. Amara's pulse raced. She knew the truth, but would they even look? The judge waved a dismissive hand, his confidence unshaken, but something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty, maybe fear. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as the clerk's hands trembled, pulling up a file. Whispers spread like wildfire. What was in that file? Would it confirm Amara's words or bury her mother's legacy deeper? The answer was seconds away, but the weight of the moment pressed down, heavy with the town's unspoken rules. If she was right, everything they believed would crack. If she were wrong, she'd be humiliated, her mother's name tarnished forever. The clerk's face paled as the screen lit up. Amara's breath caught. The judge leaned forward, his smirk fading. Something was wrong, terribly wrong for him. What had they found? The courtroom fell silent as the clerk's trembling hands turned the screen toward the judge. Amara stood frozen, her heart a drumbeat in her chest, the SEAL pin now warm in her grip. The judge's eyes widened, his confident sneer dissolving as the file loaded. A stark military record, undeniable, glowing with her mother's name. Captain Elena Carter, Navy SEAL, decorated, honorable discharge. The truth hung in the air like a blade, cutting through the room's smug certainty. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Amara's chest tightened, a mix of vindication and rage. They had mocked her, dismissed her mother's sacrifice because of her skin, her gender, her existence. The judge stammered, his face flushed, but no words came. Amara stepped forward, her voice no longer small. "You laughed," she said, each word a stone. "You said she couldn't be a hero, but she's more than you'll ever be." The room felt electric, the crowd's whispers now a roar of disbelief. Some shifted uncomfortably, their prejudices exposed, raw and ugly. Others stared at Amara, seeing her for the first time, not just a girl, but a daughter carrying her mother's legacy. The judge banged his gavel, but it was weak, desperate, drowned by the weight of the moment. Then, the doors burst open. Heavy boots echoed, deliberate and unyielding. A group of men and women in crisp uniforms entered, their presence commanding, their faces unreadable. The SEAL unit. Amara's breath caught as she recognized the leader, her mother's comrade, his eyes locked on the judge. The room felt like it might collapse under the truth they carried. The judge's hands shook, his authority crumbling. This wasn't just about a file anymore. It was a reckoning. The courtroom stood still as the SEAL unit faced the judge, their presence a silent rebuke to his mockery. Amara's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with fierce pride as the lead SEAL spoke, voice steady, confirming her mother's service. The judge slumped, his gavel forgotten, his authority undone by truth. Amara's mother wasn't there, but her legacy filled the room, unshakable. The crowd was silent, some ashamed, others awakened. The town's veneer of fairness cracked, exposing the prejudice that had dismissed a hero because of her race and gender. Amara walked out, head high, the SEAL pin now pinned to her chest, a badge of her mother's triumph, and her own. But the victory was bittersweet. Amara returned to her quiet life, forever changed. The whispers in town didn't stop. They shifted, now laced with grudging respect or resentment. She carried the weight of knowing her truth had shaken a system. But systems don't bend easily. This wasn't just her story. It was a mirror to a world where courage is questioned, where skin color and gender still cast doubt on valor. Her mother's service and Amara's stand forced the town to confront its biases, but change was slow, stubborn, incomplete. This story echoes beyond one courtroom. It's in every sidelong glance, every assumption that stings, every hero erased because they don't fit the mold. Amara's fight wasn't just for her mother. It was for every voice silenced, every truth buried. How many heroes have we overlooked because of who they are? How many Amaras must stand up before we see past color, past gender, to the strength within? Share this story. Reflect on it. Ask yourself, what truths are we still ignoring?